It was a cold winter evening. The wind was sharp, and snow covered the streets like a white blanket. 16-year-old Arman was walking home after finishing his part-time shift at the local grocery store. His hands were deep inside his jacket pockets, and his breath made tiny clouds in the air. The street was empty. Most people were already home, sitting beside heaters or drinking hot tea. Arman was used to walking alone. His house was only 15 minutes away, and he liked the silence. But tonight, something felt different. As he turned the corner near an old park, he suddenly stopped. A soft sound reached his ears. It was like crying, very soft and shaky. Arman looked around. There was no one in sight. He listened again. Yes, it was crying. Quiet, scared, and coming from the small alley beside the park. His heart beat faster. Who could it be? He thought. Why is someone crying here in this freezing cold? He slowly walked toward the alley. The snow crunched under his shoes. The wind blew harder now, almost pushing him back. But he kept going. Then he saw her. A little girl, maybe 4 years old. She was sitting on the cold ground, her legs pulled close to her chest. She wore a thin dress and had no jacket. Her feet were bare, her tiny fingers were red from the cold, and her face was wet with tears. Arman couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked gently. The girl looked up. Her eyes were wide with fear. She didn't speak. She just stared at him, shivering badly. "Where's your mom? Or your dad? Why are you alone here?" he asked again. Still, no answer. Arman looked around, hoping someone would come running, saying the girl was lost. But no one came. The street remained empty and silent. He slowly took off his jacket and wrapped it around the girl. "You'll get sick. You're freezing," he said softly. She still didn't speak, but she let him put the jacket on her. Arman didn't know what to do. He didn't have a phone. His mom couldn't afford it. He couldn't leave her here, but he couldn't take her to the police either. What if they thought he had kidnapped her? He looked at her again. Her lips were turning blue. "Okay," he whispered. "I'm taking you home." He lifted her gently in his arms. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten for days. As he walked back through the snow, his mind was full of questions. Who was she? Why was she left alone? And where was her family? When he reached home, he quietly entered the house. His mother was working a night shift as a cleaner. The small house was empty. He placed the girl on his bed and quickly covered her with a warm blanket. She curled up like a kitten and closed her eyes. But she was still shaking. Arman made some warm milk on the gas stove. He didn't have much food, but he had to help her. He gently gave her the cup. She held it with both hands. After a few seconds, she whispered her first words. "Thank you." Arman felt a lump in his throat. Her voice was so soft, so broken. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked at him, eyes full of sadness. "Zoya." He smiled gently. "That's a beautiful name." Then she said something that made his heart stop. "Mommy said she had to go. She said she'll come back. But it's been a long time." Tears ran down her cheeks again. Arman didn't know what to say. He sat beside her, confused and scared. He had just wanted to walk home like any other night. But now, a small child with no shoes, no parents, and no answers was in his room. And something inside him whispered, this was just the beginning. Arman sat quietly on the edge of his bed, watching Zoya as she held the warm cup of milk with her little hands. Her eyes were heavy with sleep, but fear still lived in them. She kept looking at the door, as if someone might come and take her away. Outside, the snow continued to fall, painting the streets white and silent. But inside that small room, Arman's heart was full of noise, questions, worries, and fear. He didn't know what to do. "Do you remember where your house is?" he asked softly. Zoya shook her head. "Do you know your mommy's phone number?" She lowered her eyes. "No, She said, she said not to tell anyone where we were. Armin blinked. Why? She said bad people are looking for her, and if they find me, they'll take me away. Zoya's words sent a chill down Armin's spine, colder than the wind outside. Bad people. Was her mother running from someone? Armin was just a normal schoolboy. He never dealt with big problems. His biggest worry was finishing homework on time or helping his mom with bills. But now he was hiding a lost child. And maybe, just maybe, there were people out there looking for her. He looked at the time. His mother would be home in 2 hours. He needed to think fast. He gave Zoya a blanket and let her lie down. She was asleep within minutes, her small hand gripping his old toy bear. Armin went into the tiny kitchen. His hands were shaking. I should call the police, he whispered to himself. This is too much. But something in his heart stopped him. What if the police sent her to an orphanage? What if they never found her mom? What if those bad people found her first? No, he said to himself. Not yet. I need to know more first. He went back to his room and quietly closed the door. He didn't sleep that night. He sat on the floor, watching over Zoya like a big brother, wondering how such a small child ended up all alone in the snow. The next morning, sunlight entered through the window. Zoya woke up slowly, blinking at the new day. Are you hungry? Armin asked. She nodded shyly. He made toast and gave her some jam. She smiled weakly. Thank you, she whispered again. He smiled back, but his smile faded when he heard a knock at the door. Knock, knock. Armin's heart jumped. He stood up slowly. Zoya grabbed the blanket tighter around herself. Stay here, Armin told her. He opened the door just a little. Outside stood Mr. Karim, the old man who lived 2 houses down. He owned the corner shop and had always been kind to Armin. Good morning, Beta, he said. I saw you carrying someone last night. A little girl. Is everything okay? Armin felt his mouth go dry. He didn't expect anyone to notice. She's my cousin, Armin lied. From out of town. Mr. Karim raised an eyebrow. Out of town. In this weather. Armin nodded quickly. Her mom is sick. She sent Zoya to stay with us for a while. Mr. Karim looked at him for a moment, then gave a slow nod. If you need anything, food, blankets, you let me know, Quay. Thank you, Armin said. As Mr. Karim left, Armin closed the door and sighed with relief. He turned to see Zoya standing there, holding her bear. Are you mad? She asked softly. He knelt down in front of her. No, I want to help you, but I don't know how yet. She nodded. Then she said something strange. I think Mommy knew this would happen. She told me, if I ever got lost, to wait for someone kind. I think she meant you. Armin looked at her in surprise. That sentence stayed in his heart. Someone kind. Maybe her mother didn't leave her. Maybe she was protecting her. But from who? Armin knew one thing. This wasn't a simple case of a lost child. There was a secret behind Zoya's past, a dangerous one. And now, it had become his secret too. For the next few days, Armin kept Zoya hidden inside the house. He didn't go to school. He only went out late at night, when the streets were quiet, to buy food and milk from Mr. Karim's shop. Zoya slowly began to smile again. She played with Armin's old toys and helped him clean the tiny room. But even when she laughed, there was always sadness in her eyes, like she was remembering something painful. Armin tried not to ask too many questions. He didn't want to scare her, but every time he looked at her, he felt the weight of her secret growing heavier. One evening, as snowflakes fell again, Zoya sat on the floor and drew something on a piece of paper with a broken crayon. Armin was cooking rice when he noticed her staring at the picture in silence. He walked over and looked at the drawing. It was a house, a small one with a red door. Next to it was a woman with long hair, holding the hand of a little girl. A man with angry eyes stood far away, his mouth open like he was shouting. "Is this your house?" Arman asked gently. Zoya nodded. "That man," she pointed to the angry face. "He is the bad man. Mommy said he used to hurt her." Arman sat beside her, heart pounding. "Was he your daddy?" he asked. Zoya shook her head. "No, he was Mommy's boss. She cleaned his house. One day, she ran away with me. She said he was dangerous." Arman felt a cold fear in his chest. "Do you remember his name?" Zoya paused. Then she said slowly, "I think it was Mr. Bosher." That name sounded familiar to Arman. He had heard it before. In the news, maybe, or in whispers on the street. Suddenly, everything made sense. Zoya's mother had been running from a powerful man. A man who didn't want people to know what he had done. And now, Zoya might be the only person who knew the truth. Arman stood up and walked to the window. He looked at the snowy street, quiet and still, but now it felt dangerous. Was Mr. Bosher looking for Zoya? Was someone watching the house? He didn't know, but he had to do something before it was too late. Later that night, when his mother came home, tired from her job, Arman finally decided to tell her the truth. She sat down, listening in silence as Arman explained everything. From finding Zoya in the alley to what she had just told him. His mother looked shocked, then worried. "Arman, Beta, this is serious," she said. "If this man is dangerous, we can't keep this secret forever." "But we can't send her away," Arman said quickly. "What if he finds her again?" His mother looked at Zoya, who was now sleeping peacefully on the bed. "We'll protect her," she said firmly. "But we need help from someone we can trust." The next morning, Arman and his mother took Zoya to visit an old friend of hers, Auntie Nida. She worked at a small shelter for women and children. She was kind and wise, and had helped many people before. After listening to Zoya's story, Auntie Nida looked very serious. "This Mr. Bosher, I've heard his name before," she said. "He has money, power, and many people working for him. But if Zoya can help prove what he did, the police will listen." Zoya looked afraid, but she slowly nodded. "Mommy said, if anything happens to her, I should tell the truth." Arman held her hand. "You're very brave," he said. Auntie Nida smiled. "We'll keep her safe here, and I'll talk to a lawyer I trust. If we do this right, Mr. Bosher won't be able to hurt anyone again." As Arman walked home that evening, the snow falling gently around him, he felt a strange mix of fear and hope. He had never expected his simple life to change like this. But now he was part of something bigger, a fight for truth, for justice, for a little girl who had lost everything. And he knew one thing for sure. He would never let Zoya feel alone again. The city looked quiet, but something had changed. Since Zoya's name was mentioned to Auntie Nida, things started moving faster, too fast. Auntie Nida kept Zoya safe at the shelter. She called a trusted lawyer, a kind man named Mr. Rehan, who agreed to help. Mr. Rehan worked with children who had suffered. When he heard Zoya's story, he said, "This child can help many others if her words are taken seriously. But we have to be careful." Zoya had a strong heart, but she missed Arman. She kept asking for him every night. And Arman missed her too. Even though she had only been in his home for a few days, it had felt like having a little sister, someone to care for, to protect. One evening, Arman's mother came home looking worried. "Something is not right," she said. "A man came to my workplace today. He asked strange questions. He said he was looking for a little girl who was lost. But his face, his eyes, they didn't look kind." Arman felt cold all over. "Do you think it was Mr. Bosher's man?" His mother nodded slowly. "Maybe. Or someone working for him." They knew time was running out. The next day, Arman rushed to the shelter to see Zoya and warn Auntie Nida. The streets were icy. He ran fast, slipping but never stopping. When he reached the shelter, he found the gate open, and no one at the front desk. He ran inside. "Zoya," he shouted. "Auntie Nida." There was silence. Then he heard footsteps. Auntie Nida appeared from the back room, her face pale and eyes wide. "She's gone," she said in a shaking voice. "Zoya is gone." Armin couldn't believe it. "What do you mean gone? Did someone take her?" Auntie Nida nodded slowly. "This morning, a man came with papers. He claimed he was from Child Protection. Said he was taking Zoya for safety. We believed him. But later, I called the office. They never sent anyone." Armin felt his legs go weak. His heart thudded loudly in his chest. "She's with them now," he whispered. "They found her. The chase begins." Armin didn't wait. He called Mr. Rayhan and told him everything. Mr. Rayhan didn't waste time either. "I know someone in the police," he said. "I'll make sure they act fast. But you must stay safe. Armin, these people, they don't play fair." But Armin couldn't sit still. He remembered something important. The night Zoya told him about Mr. Bosher, she had mentioned a big white house near a lake. She had said, "That's where Mommy worked. That's where the bad man lived." Armin made up his mind. If no one else could find her, maybe he could. A dangerous place. He took a bus to the rich part of town. The houses here were large and quiet. Cameras watched every corner. After walking for an hour, he found it, the White House by the lake. He stayed hidden behind a wall, watching. He waited, and then he saw her. Zoya. She was standing near a window on the second floor, holding her bear. Her face was sad, her eyes looking out like she was hoping someone would come. Armin's heart broke. She had trusted him, and now she was trapped again. But he wouldn't let it stay that way. The plan. That night, Armin called Mr. Rayhan and told him everything. He even shared a picture he had taken of the house. Mr. Rayhan promised to bring the police the next morning. "You did a brave thing, Armin," he said, "but don't go near that house again alone. These people, they won't stop easily." But Armin couldn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about Zoya, alone in that cold house, scared and waiting. He looked outside his window and whispered to the sky, "Hold on, Zoya. Just one more night. I'm coming." Morning came slowly. Snowflakes floated from the sky, soft and quiet. But Armin's heart beat fast with worry. He sat by the window, staring outside, waiting for a message from Mr. Rayhan. He hadn't slept all night. His thoughts were only on Zoya, her little face at that window, her sad eyes looking out, her hope fading. At 8 a.m., his phone finally rang. It was Mr. Rayhan. "Armin," he said, "we're going to get her today." Armin's heart jumped. "Really?" "Yes. I've spoken to a top police officer, Inspector Ferris. He knows about Mr. Bosher and his dark past. We're meeting near the house in 1 hour." Armin quickly told his mother and hugged her tightly. She held his face in her hands. "Be careful, Beta," she whispered, "and bring her home safe." At the lake house, the White House stood still, cold and rich, as if nothing evil ever happened there. But inside, Zoya sat on the bed, hugging her small teddy bear, tears falling down her cheeks. A tall man had shouted at her that morning. He said, "Your mommy ran from me, and you'll learn why that was a mistake." Zoya didn't speak. She only remembered what her mother had told her once. "If something happens to me, speak the truth, no matter how scared you are." Outside, in the snow, Armin stood beside Mr. Rayhan, Inspector Ferris, and 2 police officers hiding near the gate. Mr. Rayhan showed papers. "We have a legal order now. If Zoya is inside, she must be released immediately." The inspector gave the signal. The police moved to the door and rang the bell. Moments passed. Then the door opened. A man in a dark coat stepped out. It was Mr. Bosher himself. He smiled, but his eyes were sharp. "Can I help you?" he asked coldly. "We're here for the girl," the inspector said. Bosher laughed. There is no girl here. But just then, something happened. A small voice called from the window upstairs. Armin, Armin, I'm here. Everyone looked up. There she was, Zoya, standing at the window, tears on her face, waving her little hand. The truth comes out. The inspector's face changed. Break the door. The officers moved fast. Mr. Bashir tried to stop them, but he was too late. The police rushed in, and a few minutes later, Zoya was safe in Armin's arms. She hugged him tight and didn't let go. You came, she whispered. I promised, didn't I? Armin said, holding her like a brother. Mr. Bashir was arrested on the spot. The police found documents and pictures that proved what Zoya's mother had said was true. Mr. Bashir had hurt many people, but now he couldn't hide anymore. Zoya was safe, and justice had finally started to rise. Back at home. That evening, Zoya sat on the couch in Armin's house. His mother brought her warm food and wrapped her in a soft blanket. The room felt warm now, not because of the heater, but because of love. Zoya smiled for the first time in days. She looked at Armin and said, "Thank you for not giving up on me." Armin smiled back. Your family now. They both looked at the snow outside. Cold, white, and falling slowly. But inside, everything had changed. Because one brave teen had cared. Zoya had finally found safety in Armin's home. But peace doesn't come so easily. Not when the past still holds secrets. That night, after dinner, Armin's mother tucked Zoya into bed. The little girl looked calm, but her mind was full of questions. She missed her mother. She still remembered her warm smile, the way she hummed lullabies, the way she protected her. But something had always confused her. Why did her mother run from Mr. Bashir? What was their connection? Why had her mother never told her the full story? Zoya whispered into the dark, "Mama, I want to know the truth." A visitor from the past. The next morning, Mr. Rehan arrived with a serious face. He sat down with Armin and his mother, then looked at Zoya kindly. "Zoya, I need to tell you something about your mother," he said. Zoya sat up, holding her teddy bear tightly. Mr. Rehan continued, "We've been doing more investigation, and we found someone. Your aunt, your mother's sister. She's alive. She wants to see you." Zoya's eyes widened. "I have an aunt." He nodded. "Yes, her name is Mahira. She lives in another city. She left your mother many years ago because of something that happened." "What happened?" Armin asked softly. Mr. Rehan took a deep breath. "Your mother was supposed to marry someone else, but Mr. Bashir forced her to be with him. He had power, money, and influence. Your mother tried to escape many times, but she had no one to help her." Zoya's lips trembled. "So he wasn't my real father?" "No, Beta," Mr. Rehan said gently. "Your real father died before you were born. Your mother was forced to stay quiet. She never wanted to tell you the pain she lived through." Memories return. Zoya sat silently, but tears ran down her cheeks. Now the memories made sense. The nights her mother cried quietly. The fear in her eyes when loud footsteps came to the door. The secret phone calls late at night. Her mother was trying to escape and to protect her. But she never made it. Zoya suddenly stood up. "I want to see my aunt." The journey. The next day, Armin and his mother joined Zoya and Mr. Rehan on the journey. They traveled by train, watching trees and snow pass by outside the windows. Zoya was quiet, looking out, but her heart beat faster as the train neared the small town where her aunt lived. At the station, a woman in her late 30s stood waiting. She wore a long brown coat, and her eyes were filled with emotion. As soon as Zoya stepped off the train, the woman knelt down and opened her arms. "Zoya," she whispered. Zoya didn't move for a second. Then she ran to her. "Auntie Mahira?" she asked. "Yes, sweetheart," the woman cried, hugging her tightly. "You look just like your mother." The letter. That evening, Mahira showed Zoya an old envelope. "It's from your mother," she said. "She gave it to me the last time we met. She said if anything ever happened to her, this letter was for you." Zoya's hand shook as she opened the envelope. Her mother's handwriting was soft and loving. "My dearest Zoya, if you're reading this, I couldn't protect you the way I wanted to. But I want you to know, you were always my reason to stay strong. The world is not always kind, but never let it change your heart. You are brave, just like your father was. Always speak the truth. Always protect those who cannot protect themselves. And always know, I love you more than anything." Zoya pressed the letter to her chest and cried quietly, not out of sadness, but out of love. Her mother's voice had come back to her, through paper and ink. The sun rose slowly over the small town, casting golden light through the window. Zoya sat on a wooden bench outside her Aunt Mahira's house. The air was fresh, birds chirped, and snow had finally started to melt. It had been 2 days since she read her mother's letter. But something inside her had changed. She was no longer just a lost girl. She was her mother's daughter, strong, brave, and full of love. The big decision. Armin sat beside her. He had stayed with her every step of the way, never leaving her side. "I'm proud of you," he said gently. Zoya looked at him with soft eyes. "Do you think I'll be okay?" "You already are," he replied. Just then, Mahira came out with warm tea and blankets. "I spoke to the lawyer," she said. "If you want, I can adopt you, Zoya. You can live with me here. Go to school. Make new friends. We can make this your home." Zoya looked down, thinking hard. She liked Aunt Mahira. The house was peaceful. She felt loved. But her heart also felt connected to Armin and his mother. They had saved her, cared for her, given her hope. "I don't know where I belong," she whispered. Armin's mother's offer. Later that evening, they all sat together by the fireplace. Armin's mother placed her hand gently on Zoya's. "Beta," she said, "you can come live with us again if you want. You don't have to choose right now. Just know, you will never be alone again." Zoya's eyes filled with tears. "I have 2 families now," she said with a small smile. They all smiled back. "You're blessed," Mahira said. "And your mother would be so proud of you." The court hearing. A week later, they all appeared in family court. The judge listened to everything. Mr. Bashir's crimes, the police reports, and the letter from Zoya's mother. Then the judge looked at Zoya kindly. "You are a brave girl," he said. "You may choose who you want to stay with, and if you need more time, you shall have it." Zoya stood up, nervous but steady. "I want to live with both," she said. "Can I spend half the year with Aunt Mahira and half with Armin's family?" The judge smiled. "That's unusual, but if all adults agree, yes." Everyone nodded. For the first time, Zoya felt something rise in her chest. It was not fear. It was peace. A fresh start. Months passed. Zoya started school. She learned to laugh again. She joined a painting class, made friends, and shared her story with other girls who had gone through pain. She became a voice for children who were scared to speak. One day, in front of her school assembly, she stood with a microphone in hand and said, "I was lost once. I was cold and alone, but someone cared. And now I want to be that person for others. We are stronger than the pain we survive." The hall clapped, teachers cried, and Armin smiled from the crowd. Back to the snow. On the 1-year anniversary, Armin and Zoya returned to the place where it all began, the snowy path where he had first found her. Zoya stood still, looking at the frozen trees. "I was so scared that day," she said. "I didn't think anyone would stop. But I did," Armin said, placing his hand on her shoulder. "And I always will." Zoya smiled. It was a cold, crisp winter day when Zoya and Armin stood together on the same snowy path where their journey had begun. The snowflakes fell gently, just like they had on the day Zoya had been found, cold and alone. This time, however, Zoya was not alone. She wasn't lost, and she wasn't scared anymore. The girl who had once been trapped in a dark world of fear now stood strong, surrounded by the people who loved her. Armin looked at her, his heart full of pride. "Do you remember this place?" he asked softly, his voice carrying the weight of everything they had been through. Zoya nodded, her eyes glistening with memories. "I remember everything," she said quietly. "I remember how cold it was. I remember how lonely I felt. But now it's different." The wind blew softly, rustling the trees. Zoya closed her eyes for a moment, taking in the stillness of the world around her. She had come so far from that scared, trembling child who had begged for help. "I used to think that I would never be happy again," Zoya continued, her voice steady now. "But I found my way back, not just to safety, but to a life full of love." Armin smiled and placed a hand on her shoulder, giving her a reassuring squeeze. "You found it because you were strong, and you were never alone." Zoya turned to face him, her eyes now shining with determination. "You saved me, Armin. You believed in me when I had nothing left. You gave me hope when I had none. You showed me that there is always a way out of the dark." For a moment, they just stood there, the two of them, letting the wind blow around them. The cold didn't feel as sharp as it once did. It felt like a symbol of everything they had survived, something that would eventually melt away into the warmth of the new life ahead. Suddenly, Zoya took a deep breath and looked ahead. "Armin, I know what I want to do now. I want to help others. I want to show them that no matter how lost you feel, no matter how cold the world seems, there is always someone who will care." Armin's eyes softened. "And you will, Zoya. You're already doing it, just by being you." Zoya smiled, her heart swelling with pride. She had a future now, a future that was hers to shape, a future filled with kindness, hope, and love. As they walked back down the snowy path, Zoya stopped for a moment and looked around. The world was still and quiet, but she knew she wasn't the same girl who had walked this path before. She was stronger now, wiser. She had learned to find hope in the darkest places. And in that moment, she realized something. It wasn't just the snow that had melted. It was the fear in her heart. The ice that had kept her trapped for so long was gone. And in its place, there was a fire of hope. She turned to Armin, a big smile on her face. "Let's go home." As they walked hand in hand toward the warmth waiting for them, Zoya knew that she had finally found her way back, not just to a family, but to herself. The world was waiting for her, and she was ready to take it on.